Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to Test 2 Plus today. I'm Trace. This is a podcast-style show where we take a topic and we break it into a few different chunks so that everybody understands it a bit better, myself included. And this week we're talking about fear. What happens in our brain when we're afraid? How is it crippling us in our everyday life? Or how come it's fun sometimes? And also how to treat it. We've even got a special guest coming in later to talk a bit about that. But before we get into the show, you can check out this entire series on iTunes right now. It's an audio podcast. It's available there. Go check that out as well. There's a link down in the description. So let's tackle this first. Why is fear valuable? What happens in our brains when we get scared? What is fear? It seems like a pretty obvious question, but fear is a chain reaction that starts at the outset of a stressful situation, and it ends with the release of chemicals that can cause all sorts of things to happen in your body. Things like a racing heart, fast breathing, energized muscles that are just ready to act if need be. There's a lot going on in the brain, actually, when you experience fear, and the fear response is basically 100% autonomic. It just happens. No one chooses to be scared at a certain point in time. It just happens to us, even though it's us doing it. There are dozens of areas in the brain involved in fear processing and fear response, but the five main parts of the brain that organize or process your fear response are these. The thalamus, which decides where to send incoming sensory data from your eyes, your ears, your mouth, and your skin, so on and so forth. The sensory cortex, which interprets the data sent from the thalamus. The hippocampus, which stores and retrieves conscious memories and basically means that it's trying to process the stimuli that you're getting. So a spider or a rabid dog or something would be processed by the hippocampus to establish context for that fear. And then the amygdala decodes the emotions you are experiencing and determines whether or not the stimuli is possibly a threat or something else. It's also in charge of storing your fear memories or your imprints of fear. And finally, the so-called lizard brain part of us, the most primitive area in the human brain, the hypothalamus, which then triggers our fight or flight response, whether or not we're going to act and attack something or if we're going to get the heck out of there and run away. There are actually paths that the fear takes as well. We call them the low road and the high road. The low road is sort of like, the scared kid, reacting without a lot of thinking. Whereas the high road is the responsible adult, thinking things through before making a plan and acting then. Both the high and low road are working at the same time to process any kind of stimuli and determine whether or not it's scary and what to do about it. So let's break this down. Say you hear a loud crash downstairs in your kitchen or something as you're laying in bed. The low road process, it would assume that there is someone in the house and they're trying to get you and you need to get out of there. As soon as you hear the sound or you see motion, your brain sends that sensory data into the thalamus. The thalamus doesn't know whether or not the signals it's receiving are danger yet. But since danger is a possibility, it sends that data right onto the amygdala, the fear center, and the amygdala receives the neural impulses that allow you to take action and protect yourself by telling the lizard brain hypothalamus to go, fight or flight, let's do this. The high road is a little bit longer process, and that considers all of the different options, not just that worst case scenario, that more instinctual response. The sensory data from the crash down in the kitchen is sent to the thalamus, just like on the low road. But instead of immediately sending that information to the amygdala and finding out if it's something to be afraid of, the thalamus is all like, look, sensory cortex, what's going on here? What's up? Let's get some meaning. The sensory cortex determines that there is more than one plausible interpretation of that sensory data and then passes it along to the hippocampus and says, hey man, give me some context here. What's going on? The hippocampus is all like, okay, I've heard that noise before, I think. Maybe there was a pan or something that I left on the edge of the counter. Maybe that noise was dangerous before, maybe not. They compare that to other noises that you've heard and other stimuli. They might come into the hippocampus during this process, things like noises outside. Did I leave a window open earlier? Do I own a cat that might have knocked something down? The hippocampus takes all of this information into account and determines whether or not there is danger, and if it determines the wind knocked something over, that sends that message to the amygdala, and the amygdala is all like, okay, hypothalamus, don't worry about it, fight or flight, go back to sleep. This all happens instantly, as you might have been able to guess, and again, the paths are being done simultaneously. But sometimes, in a time of crisis, our brains don't follow their own rules. They don't think through this whole path. When it's under severe threat, the brain can completely change the way it processes information and skip over some of these steps. According to Eric Hollander, professor of psychiatry at Montefiore Albert Einstein School of Medicine in New York, the normal long pathways through the orbitofrontal cortex, where people evaluate situations in a logical and conscious fashion and consider the risks and benefits of different behaviors, can get short-circuited. Which is why we have a few seconds of terror and just that visceral response before we're able to kind of calm down and assess what's going on. That's what happens with fear in the brain. It's a pretty complicated process, and it happens really fast. How long can fear actually stick with you, though? You know, how scared do you have to be to have it affect you for a significant amount of time? And are those things that we're afraid of, like being afraid of snakes or being afraid of the dark, are those things like embedded in us? There's a lot of questions in this series. We're going to get to all of these. You have to come back tomorrow to find out more, so thanks for watching Test Tube Plus. Again, you can listen to this whole thing on iTunes. There's a link down in the description. And let us know down in the comments if you have anything that you want to know about fear. We'll see if we address it later on in this series. Thanks for watching.